Hey there guys, what's going on? Tyler here with your Movie Fix, and now that Civil War is coming out this week, I'm going to be going over a couple of the Marvel movies, and we're going to be starting with Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Actually, I think this is the first time I've ever reviewed a Marvel Cinematic movie, and contrary to, I do talk a lot about DC movies, I'm a DC guy at heart, but I do love the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, especially this one that we're going to be talking about here. Now, I think this movie right here is really the biggest shakeup in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And since the Avengers, Cap is back in the modern world, and he's struggling to embrace his role here. Are his values and beliefs outdated? Is world peace, a black and white subject? This is the world he has to deal with his past running back to haunt him. Spoilers, it's this guy and those guys. I think one of the big things that helps this movie is that it kind of steps away from being a super comic book movie, and it goes and it aims for being like this political thriller, like this conspiracy type movie, and doesn't have like too many over the top comic book tropes. And it maybe a couple of sequences such as meeting Zola for the first time back when he's a computer, like they're walking in his brain. That was probably the most comic book element of the movie, and I don't think there's anything wrong with a movie being like that, but it's just one of the things that works so well for a movie like The Winter Soldier. Now, I really think that this movie stepped it up on several fronts that a lot of the other MCU movies didn't do. I mean, simply put, it has just one of the best stories, and I think this is one of the only ones with a very, very great soundtrack done by Henry Jackman. I'm not sure if he's returning for Civil War, but that would be totally great if he is. And it takes things a little more seriously back like Iron Man 1. Like I said, going back with it, taking itself a little more seriously with the political thriller thing, that's one thing that I really liked about this. And you actually felt the stakes in this movie. I felt that this movie did have stakes and it had some tension, especially with what was going on with Nick Fury, that, in some movies, they could have just shown him getting shot and then he comes back later, surprise. I mean, they went so far out of their way to show you him getting worked on, him in surgery, him flatlining and dying. They go see his body and then he comes back. I actually did think while watching this that, okay, Nick Fury's dead. I didn't think they were going to do something like that. And what do you know? I mean, they didn't, but it worked for the movie. It was a great thing to see him come back, and I think he served. Nick Fury had a really big role in this movie. I think probably bigger than any of the other ones that he's been in. I think there are arguments, but really this one is his biggest role, and I think Samuel L. Jackson did a really, really great job as Nick Fury, and just what the writers were able to do with incorporating him and using, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. in such a big way in this movie, it turned out really great. Also, the action sequences, these fight scenes are just leaps and bounds, so high above a lot of the other Marvel movies, specifically like the Batroc the Leaper fight. Oh man, I love that. All the kicks that were going on, the jumping, the leaps, that stuff was so damn awesome. The entire boat rescue on the Lemurian Star, the Nick Fury chase, and the various Winter Soldier fights were all pretty damn fantastic. But definitely my favorite has to go with the Batroc the Leaper fight. Even though it was so short, I think the choreography in that was just so ridiculous and awesome. And even from an acting standpoint, everyone from Chris Evans to Robert Redford did a really, really good job. Specifically, I want to talk about Chris Evans. And I didn't really notice it. I've never really thought about it until I rewatched this movie. This is about the fourth time I've seen it. I have seen it a couple times. I really like it. And, Chris Evans, he is kind of like what Robert Downey Jr. is for Iron Man. I mean, these guys, they've been playing these characters for so long now. And I mean, he does so well. All of the acting in this movie was so well. I can't think of any specific person or a specific moment where I was like, that didn't really work. But what Chris Evans does, what he brings to Captain America, to Steve Rogers, I mean, he plays him so fantastic. And he plays these subtleties of this man lost in time, and he does such a great job. And now, while I do think the movie is fantastic, I don't really think it's without flaws. And these are just a couple of really nitpicky things. Specifically, I sometimes think just a couple times the CG was a little shoddy. It just was with some of the helicarriers that Cap was fighting, not the big ones, but the little one with the sequence of him coming out on the motorcycle and going and destroying the thing with his shield. And you can see they're setting up the road barrier. I could just tell how artificial that was. And that bugged me a little bit, but these aren't things that, are enough to take me out of the movie or for me to really, really complain. And also one of the things that bug me is the cliche, he only has a couple seconds left to do it. And they did that with, connecting the helicarriers. He had, 1-2 seconds left. They could have had the exact same effect with you have 1 minute left, Cap, and, he gets shot by Bucky. Bucky's tearing his ass up, and then he gets through it and he does it, but there's 10 seconds left, 20 seconds left. There still would have been plenty of tension there. I mean, they're about to destroy millions of people all around the world, these innocents. I think the stakes were still there and you didn't have to really push it with the cliche of 1 second left. And also one thing that again, these are just nitpicks. One thing that I wasn't the greatest fan of, I like that they did it in this movie because I didn't know what was going to be happening, after this, and Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, came out later in the year. But teasing the romance between Steve and Black Widow. Now, I thought that worked great in the movie. I thought, the weird things going on with their friendship and should I trust this person and teasing the romance between them, I liked that. And it ultimately led to nothing because in Age of Ultron, which I think is the next movie after this in the continuity, it's just gone. And now she has a thing with Banner, which I'll talk about that in Age of Ultron review, but it just felt like a waste. Why would you bother teasing something going on between Cap and Black Widow if they never even bothered to follow through with it? So I'm not sure what was going on there. Now, Bucky Barnes as the Winter Soldier and Alexander Pierce both did a really great job playing, the villain, the antagonist, as well as I believe Frank Grillo, who's going to later be Crossbones. They all did a great job at bringing this together and making it feel like the conspiracy movie. And Bucky he worked so well, and he didn't even have to speak much. That's how effective a villain that he was. And I think all of his action sequences were great. And the relationship that they were able to tie in with Bucky and Cap, it did work. It just didn't quite hit me, as emotionally as maybe it should. I got what they were going for, and I think all the scenes were phenomenal with them together. And I think it worked out great for, Bucky. He knows who Steve is. It's somewhere in his head that's ingrained that he knows who he is. Even though he's this brainwashed, killing machine, I can buy the fact that he can be talked out of it by, his best friend. Because even though they said wipe the slate clean, start it over, even though they did that, there was still something in the back of Bucky's head that allowed him to push through that. And now, going into Civil War, he's kind of a mess because of, what just happened. And this movie did do a great job with just bringing in those other Captain America, characters like Bucky, as well as Sam with Falcon, as well as Agent 13. Those were characters that I wasn't, very aware of. I knew who Falcon was, but not Agent 13. And now we're getting to see them play an even larger role in Civil War, so I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, with all that said, I'm going to have to give The Winter Soldier a 9.3 out of 10. Comment down below, guys, where do you rank this as far as the MCU movies? How do you feel about this compared to something like The Dark Knight? Do you think this is Marvel's, equivalent to The Dark Knight? Do you think it's better? I just want to know, how do you feel about this movie? Or how do you feel about Chris Evans as Steve Rogers? I'm personally a ginormous fan of him. Like I said, I think he's up there as Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I think he does a really great job. But I will be doing a review on Age of Ultron. Be sure to stick out for that, probably tomorrow, before we get to Civil War, and I can't wait to check that out. I wasn't super excited for Civil War. I love that first trailer, but it just felt so far away, and to know that we're only a couple days away here in the US, I can't wait to go see it this weekend. But anyways, guys, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe for more movie news, movie reviews, all that good stuff. I'll see you on the next video.